Welcome to Residential Tech Talks. I'm Jeremy Glowacki, Executive Editor of Residential Tech Today. In this episode, I'm joined by John Heyman, CEO of SnapAV, a company that has become a major force in the professional residential technology business since it was founded in 2005. A distributor or manufacturer of nearly every tech product category that goes into a smart home, the company made its biggest splash a year ago with its merger with the home automation brand Control4, which prior to that was already becoming a bit of a juggernaut in its own right. John Heyman, thanks for joining me today.
Good to be here, Jeremy.
And I learned before we started that I knew you were in the Atlanta area, and I learned that we were both Georgia Bulldog graduates, so that's really cool to hear.
Go Dogs.
Exactly, go Dogs. I just wanted to get to know you a little bit better because you've been CEO for a while at SnapAV, but one of these roles as the company's gotten bigger that you're behind the scenes a little more maybe than some others that we know in the industry who have been integrators, who've done everything that you just see them. It's one of these industries you can't escape. And I just wanted to know when did you join the company and where did you come from before that?
Yeah, first of all, it's an easy company to be behind the scenes because we have so many amazing people who come out of the industry and understand our integrators so well. And so it's easy for me to play a supporting role. I joined Snap in early 2015. I've been in the technology field all my life and basically serving small businesses through integrators. And I had a company for 17 years. It was a public company. We focused on the restaurant and retail space. Many of you in the industry or connected to the industry probably used our systems there. And we went to market through a group of world-class integrators with hardware and software technologies. And we sold that business in 2011. We were a public company and somebody came along and bought the company for a price that we just couldn't turn down. And I, after that, invested alongside other private equity firms. And when the original founders of SnapAV sold a piece of their business to one of those private equity firms, that's when I started to get involved.
So when you came on board with SnapAV, what were some of those initial discussions as far as, hey, this is what we would like from you and your experience? Here's where we've taken the company, how far we've gotten. Now you can kind of help us take it a step further across a finish line of some sort, whatever metaphor you want to use there. What were some of those initial goals, and how would you say, the reality of it once you got into the role has matched up to what your goals were?
Yeah, I think the initial, when I came into the business, the founders, Jay Faison, Craig Craze, Adam Levy, had built an amazing company. I mean, they were integrators and they built a company for integrators. And they felt like it was a significantly underserved market, which it was by other manufacturers and distributors. And they had gotten to a point in their lives where they wanted to pursue other things outside of business, frankly, and very altruistic focus in terms of education, church, the environment. And I think they were looking for somebody who kind of could continue that legacy, number one, but number two, had shared values with them, and number three, had experience in continuing to scale businesses and take care of integrators while doing so. Like the passion Jay and Craig and Adam had was a focus on the integrator and how to make them more successful in their business. And so I think my experience with technology, my experience building a public company, my experience in doing so through a different group of integrators, but nonetheless integrators who needed the software, hardware, business platforms, technology platforms to take care of the end customer were all attractive things.
So for those who may not know the history of SnapAV, who may be new to the industry or are consumers watching this or listening to this, can you explain a little bit from, I know the history, but since you run the company, you know the history better, what the original founders wanted. They started off really as a distributor, correct? It wasn't manufacturing of any of their own.
Well, they started off, just to be clear, as integrators, just like
True.
tens of thousands of other businesses that we serve. And in the very early days, they said there was something broken with the model, that most manufacturers considered the industry to be a niche industry that was really hard to reach because it was so fragmented. Therefore, to serve the industry, they generally went through a model of reps and distributors. Those reps and distributors just generally didn't have the product knowledge to serve the integrator. They were a brick and mortar concept. There was no e-commerce site in the industry. Because the distributors had low margins inherently in their business, they just couldn't invest in the kind of platforms an integrator needed. And so Jay and Craig and Adam went and kind of reconstructed how the industry did business. They said, we're going to stand up a website that's always on. So the integrator that's selling today or installing today and needs to plan at night can go onto an e-commerce site that's always on and transact and research and get training. They brought brands to the integrator and said, we're here to protect your brand. People won't be able to buy these brands anywhere else. They'll only be able to buy them through you. They went to Asia and found product companies that they felt like really fit the market and worked on things that were more what I'll call installability features. And they started bringing those products to market, and there was an inherent efficiency in an e-commerce model that then let them provide amazing support. So when an integrator had an issue and was on a ladder and called tech support, they got a live person who solved their issue the first time, which was important not just to the integrator, but to their customer. And so product by product and integrator by integrator, they built the business with this amazing focus of, from a cultural standpoint, of creating raving fans in the technician community. And that's what we've always tried to work on inside the business.
Yeah, I can remember when I met the founders at the original event that I think that they exhibited in or at. It was I don't remember exactly which event. It may have been an Electronic House Expo in Florida, but there was a van truck kind of scenario, like a rig outside, and you could go in and see all of these installer products that they were then supplying to the industry and presenting. And I was thinking, okay, this is not what I'm used to, being introduced to, because usually it's a manufacturer's making this one product or these products, this family of products in a category. And here this truck was like going into a store of all of these pieces that go into an installation that, frankly, as a reporter or editor, I didn't usually see all those little bits and pieces that they were presenting. But they also had in-wall speakers and things like that they had manufactured, like you said. Later, as they went along and they started making bigger waves, you as a company made bigger waves with mergers, acquisitions, that sort of thing. So there were more name brand products that became part of that Snap family. It'd be a long list to go through all of them, but along the way, I remember Sunbright came in, the outdoor TV brand. You have Autonomic, which was an early innovator in the streaming audio space. What are some of the other names that were acquisitions along the way?
Well, I think generally speaking, what we've tried to do is understand what does the integrator need to take care of their customer, and to do so in a way that makes the integrator's life easier. And so I think what we focused on as a company are two separate pieces.
Okay.
One is our business platform, and the other is our product platform. The
Right.
business platform is our e-commerce site. It's all the tools that are on the e-commerce site. It's frankly the oversee remote management system. It's the ability to serve our integrators in a brick and mortar way instead of just an e-commerce way. We started to understand years ago that there are a large group of integrators who still like to go to local sites for service. So we've made our investments on the business platform side mostly organically, meaning we've built them from the bottom up. Like Oversee was something we've invested tens of millions of dollars in. But when we decided to start building a brick and mortar presence at local stores, that was not an expertise the company had. So we went out and we found some companies that were leaders in that market. Wally Winna and Bill Zidek were two of those people at AllNet. They had helped, and in Wally's case, had built Avid.
Right.
That allowed us to go get what I'll call critical mass in terms of leadership who understood what it took to run a brick and mortar site, hire the right people, work with the right third-party vendors. And we've been really successful with that. Over the past 2.5 years, we've gone from 0 to 22 local stores. We're going to build over 50 over the next few years to be there where our integrators need us. So that's the business platform side. The other piece is the product side. And we're in a fortunate place in that our integrators speak to us all the time about what they need in their business. Sometimes they need things that we feel like, and this is most often the case, that we should build ourselves. When all products in the home started becoming connected, networking products, power products, surveillance, we said we needed to build a remote cloud management system. That was Oversee. But there have been other products where we felt like we didn't either have the capability or it was just less expensive to buy it versus build it. So when we saw outdoor living emerge as a big trend in the country 5+ years ago, we had already had a line of outdoor speakers, but we didn't have outdoor video. So the opportunity came up to not just acquire SunBright, but acquire, invest in the product line, which we did in terms of not just a premium product line, but a product line that went under the porch, so to speak, and to do so in a way that could drive integrators' margins higher on that product line than they were before, which we did. So we've done a series of acquisitions like that. On the higher end speaker side, we did Triad. You mentioned Autonomic. PackEdge was Control4's first foray into networking. So we continue to see ways to build our business platform and extend our reach and service capabilities to the integrator, but continue also to plug pieces into the product and technology platform, because we believe by doing that, we're going to bring a more installable solution and more reliable solution to the homeowner, which is more profitable and efficient for the integrator.
You mentioned PackEdge. Obviously, then Triad came with the Control4. I guess you called it a merger. Some call it an acquisition, but depending on the way the books are done and all that stuff. But Control4 is obviously the biggest name to join the SnapAV team, the platform. What has been different about that so far in the 1.5 or year plus that you've been a part of the same family?
Well, I think Control4, first of all, was kind of the last piece of the puzzle, if you will, on the product platform side. The original vision of the founders was to make integrators' lives easier. And we did that in many different ways. But a few years ago, what we said to ourselves, if we're really going to do that, we have to actually get into the control system business. Like, we were a company that had the scale to invest in it like no other company, number one. Number two, the integration of the control system with all the other components we were doing could really make a difference for the integrator and for their customer. So I think the first piece 1.5 years ago was just bringing the two organizations together, regardless of what you call it. And I think of it as a merger because we brought two companies together. We had well over 1,000 people that the day the merger was done, basically had a different boss. I was the CEO. Charlie Kindle ran the product development organization. Our team ran sales and marketing and different components. So just getting people used to working in one company versus two companies that frankly had competed with each other prior to that in some respects.
Sure.
And so getting the company unified was, I think, the first order of business for us. And the good news is, at the end of the day, the companies had very similar visions in terms of what they were trying to do in the home. And so that was good. I'd say COVID was a bit of an accelerator for us. So COVID happened, 4 or 5 months after the deal, and there's nothing like a common cause to unite a company. And all of a sudden, it didn't matter what location you were in because everybody was working at home. And by the way, most of us are still working at home. And so it gave us something to kind of unite around. And I think it eliminated geography. So there have been some learnings along the way, but it's been a great journey.
Would you say that the blending, the coming together of the cloud-based service system is kind of the biggest accomplishment so far? That was a notable announcement.
I would say we had a number of things we wanted to do, and I still the fruit of this merger is still in front of the industry relative to what we want to accomplish. We're still in the very early innings. One of the first things we decided was to consolidate the remote management platforms around Oversee from Backpack and Ahiji. So we re-platformed Oversee in doing that. The market's starting to see early indications of that integration, and there will be a lot more over the next couple of years. So that is certainly a big component of it.
Great. And I do want to get more into talking about changes since COVID-19 pandemic days have begun. But first, we need to take a short break.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Residential Tech Talk. Today's show is brought to you by WhyReboot. WhyReboot specializes in creating commercial-grade networks that address the demand of advanced control and automation technologies for residential, commercial, and luxury marine environments. WhyReboot systems are comprised of the best gear in the industry, including the Paramount Access Point Mount, developed for integrators and interior designers. To learn more, go to whyreboot.com and accesspointmount.com.
Welcome back. I'm talking to John Heyman, CEO of SnapAV. John, you were talking about how the management of the team changed during COVID-19 and how it continues to be different. Was there a central sort of gathering spot still for the company? There were so many different pieces that come together in this large company that is SnapAV. I know Charlotte is a big corporate presence. Was there a headquarters where people came together in one building quite a bit, or was it getting to the point where it was a lot of different people in different places already?
We immediately, when we announced the transaction, we said we'll have two headquarters, one in Salt Lake City and one in Charlotte. I would say today our leaders, our executive team, there is multiple people in not just Salt Lake City and Charlotte, but also in Atlanta, Georgia. That's where I live. A few of the other executives live here as well. So those of us in Atlanta, certainly pre-COVID, we traveled a lot between the two locations.
Okay.
And I would say there was a lot of flying back and forth between Salt Lake and Charlotte, as people got to know each other and know their teams, because we have components of all teams in all places.
Mm-hmm. And did you change the way that you were selling to dealers? Obviously, you're not making in-person visits probably initially at all. Maybe that's changed. There's been some opportunity to still have outdoor interactions with people. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think, well, first of all, in person, all of our local stores have remained open this entire time.
Okay.
And my teams there have my sincerest gratitude because they're there every day serving dealers in their markets. I think that we have generally restricted outside travel, and we're trying to keep our people safe, and we're trying to keep our integrators safe. And we think that's the right thing to do right now. Everybody's eager. We're all people. We're all eager to get back on planes, but not right now.
Right.
We have substituted a lot of the virtual tools. We were actually fortunate. We had an event happen in the company prior to COVID about a year and a half ago that required us in many areas to work at home for a month. So we were very well prepared with tools like Zoom. And so I think our people are actually having more conversations with partners, not less. And we were already used to interacting with each other like this. So it's been, pretty seamless for us. I've been amazed at the service levels we've been able to keep up with our integrators. And, the fact that while people are all working home, we keep churning out products, Chime being the most recent one.
Yeah, and we're fortunate that our industry early on was deemed an essential business because mainly the communication aspects of everyone working from home and educating, school from home and that sort of thing. So we're all very fortunate that our industry just took a little bit of a hiccup, and a lot of companies, other than those really tough markets like New York City, which shut down completely, could go forward safely. The big culmination I felt for the year for you was when you did your own virtual event right after CEDIA. You did this thing in October that you called SnapLive. And while I didn't participate necessarily in the sessions because those are very dealer centric, very specific to products that, details that go beyond my pay grade, really. You had a great keynote where you stood outside. It was very uplifting, talking about the business and thanking the dealers for their work during a really difficult time. And I wondered, what your goals were for that event and how successful you felt having it be maybe your first big virtual training / trade show type of an event.
Yeah, I'm somewhat of a numbers person, so I go by the numbers, and I was astounded when we all know how busy integrators are installing and servicing systems out in the field, that people took their time and attended these sessions. We had thousands. I have not gotten a recent count because we kept it out for we let people go after hours and so forth because we knew people had customers to serve. But we've had thousands of attendee sessions in many of the different product areas. So we were really pleased with that. And I think it piggybacks on some of the other, like we've taken the vast majority of our training virtual outside of the event. And so that's also gone really well. So we'll, again, right now we're all having to make do with the virtual tools we have. I think there's some good learnings there that let us do things and let the industry consume them when and where they want to consume them on their own time. But we can't wait to get back out there and see our partners, whether it's at CEDIA or other live events.
Yeah, and the other notable news that came from the company just a couple weeks ago, I guess it was, where you announced several different managerial changes with different positions. And could you talk some about those roles and what sort of the motivation was, other than promoting and rewarding folks in the company for what they're doing? Was there any reorganization in the way that you're addressing the market through these different positions in the company?
I think what we're trying to do overall is stay very streamlined, very fast and responsive, and continue to infuse the voice of the integrator in our business. As I look at our industry buys products, but to build those products, we have to build them on what I'm going to say are technology platforms. OS3 is an example. Composer is an example. Oversee is an example. And I think that both before the merger and when he was at Control4, Charlie Kendall did an amazing job taking what I'll say was a very entrepreneurial development team that had grown up from, effectively a startup, and bringing in leadership, instilling processes, and helping the company think through and then implement all of this replatforming that has gone on to make sure that we have products for the next decade. I think, and there's been lots of evidence of that. OS3 was launched, Neo was launched, Chime was launched most recently, the new Oversea was launched. I think Charlie's a very entrepreneurial guy. And I think as we did our planning in the summer, and, you know, again, we're almost 2 years into the integration now, I think it became time to emerge from the replatforming and processes and so forth that were instilled. And it was time to infuse more voice of the integrator into the business. G. Paul Hess, who was the chief product officer at Snap and then was running G. Paul's had a long career in the industry, sales, marketing, and product. G. Paul knows the integration business incredibly well. He's worked as an integrator. He's worked as a supplier to the industry. So G. Paul took the helm with an already very capable leadership team that was primarily in Salt Lake City. Dave Moore came back into the business, who many integrators will know. Dave invented Oversea. He invented Wattbox and many other amazing products. He came back into the industry. He's also spent time with other industry leaders. So those two guys kind of are now together with our team that was in Salt Lake leading. And those guys have voice of integrator like nobody else in the industry. And we've got some other people who took on new roles with that. Mike Jordan is one. Mike was with Snap, went on to be the chief product officer at Core Brands, and Jason Winchester. And so I think now we've got a great team that has the right voice of integration and the right technology leadership. And Charlie did a great job when he was here. And he continues to be a shareholder, and I know he's going to do some amazing things in the future.
So looking more broadly at the AV industry, what technology trends do you think seem to be driving your product and system sales and development right now? Could be COVID-related trends or just general product trends?
Yeah, first of all, I would say, man, if we all fast forward from early March to where the industry today is, like never before, our industry has shown itself to be mission critical to homeowners around the world. So that's number one. Our business is up virtually everywhere right now. I think that the pervading principle is the home is everybody's castle. Like, this is where we're spending time, inside our home, outside our home. So that's one piece. The second piece is, I think it's here to stay. Like, we're all looking forward to being able to go out and to restaurants and travel again, et cetera. But if you think of what is happening around the need for people to be connected, to have more joy in their life and entertainment and more security, we enable all that. This industry enables all that. If you think about recent announcements from last week, movie picture studios are coming right to the home with first run movies. This is going to be the thing that drives adoption of 8K. Think of all the infrastructure that goes into the home with 8K. Think of the robust networking you need. Think about the streaming that's going to happen in your house. Think about the quality of surveillance pixels and what's happening with analytics and so forth. So I think we're going to continue to see people not just invest in their homes, but upgrade their homes. I mean, this industry has a huge install base of technology that has yet to be integrated. All of those things are going to require more connectivity. And what I mean by that is the supportability of the system in the home, remote management is going to be critical, because you're not going to want your integrator there every week at night and on the weekends. So that's one piece. And the second piece is, I don't think discerning consumers are going to want to consume this world through a bunch of separate apps. So I think the control system itself is actually going to become even more important. So those are the trends we see: 8K, better media rooms inside homes, better networking, better surveillance, driving kind of the next frontier of security. Those are the things we're excited about.
Well, I think that's a good positive place to end on, in a time when a lot of the other challenges of the world are a lot more difficult to figure out and to deal with. And we're, like I said, we're fortunate in our industry to have some very positive things to talk about. And thanks for illustrating those for us. John Heyman, thanks for joining us, and thanks for taking the time out to talk today.
Jeremy, thank you. Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays to you, and best wishes for 2021. We're going to hope that number changes a lot for us going forward. So thank you. Also, thanks to everybody for joining us. Be sure to comment, share, or subscribe to the podcast. And you can check out all the latest residential tech news at restechtoday.com. Until next time, please stay safe, stay inspired, and let us know if you have a great story to tell.
Residential tech talk, lighting specialist, residential tech, home automation, smart device, home or smart house.